In just under 2 weeks, voters in Iowa will go to the polls to help decide who will be the Republican nominee. And after months of campaigning, former President Donald Trump still holds a commanding lead in that state. He's more than 30 points ahead of his closest rival. The situation's a little different in New Hampshire, where Trump holds a slimmer lead over Nikki Haley. So what are his opponents doing to try and get a final boost? Robert Costa has been following this all and joins us now with more. Robert, good morning. As the Republican candidates prepare for these first votes to be cast, what are their campaign strategies in the final stretch?
They're trying to stay in the race. This is the go time for all of the rivals of the Republican frontrunner, former President Donald Trump. If you're Nikki Haley, based on our reporting at CBS News, she's putting a lot of her chips on New Hampshire. The former ambassador to the UN wants to make sure she can get a lift in the Granite State, but her path has been complicated by her recent controversy, that riptide of controversy about her remarks on the Civil War. And her path is complicated by former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who's also making a stand in New Hampshire. For some of the other candidates, like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and conservative entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, it's all about Iowa. And they want to make sure those Iowa caucuses give them a jolt. But Trump is ahead in Iowa and in New Hampshire in all of the polls.
You've got a pulse on what voters are thinking and what these polls are saying. Do you think Team Trump is worried about his many legal cases, or do you think he's also worried about some of these other candidates creeping up?
There is a concern inside Trump's campaign and his political orbit about complacency, that while he is ahead in the polls right now, there's a big effort afoot inside the Trump campaign to make sure that his voters turn out, that they caucus in Iowa, that they vote in New Hampshire, that they vote in South Carolina. On the campaign trail in recent weeks, Trump has been reiterating in speech after speech that he doesn't want his own voters to say, hey, this thing's in the bag, there's no need for us to show up, we can all just watch the returns on TV. So getting a ground game, getting his voters motivated is going to be key. But for Trump, motivation isn't that tough to do because so much of his campaign is fueled by grievance over what's happening in the courtroom, whether it's the January 6th case being led by special counsel Jack Smith, or his ongoing fraud trial in New York, which is scheduled to wrap up this month. That special counsel case led by Jack Smith, it's supposed to start in March. That's the scheduled start date for that trial, but that could be changed should the Supreme Court decide to weigh in and push that down the line.
We know that January is now a crucial phase here in this election. Ron DeSantis made a plea with voters in Iowa to make him the candidate for 2024. He's also been criticizing Trump while on the trail. Let's play some of what he said.
But why would he not be willing to come and get on the stage and articulate his plan for the future? And I think that, one, I don't think he's the same candidate that he was in 2015, 2016. He's lost the zip on his fastball. He's promising a lot of the same things in 23 and 24 that he promised in 16 and didn't do.
I mean, one could argue he's not on the debate stage because he doesn't need to be. He's still polling way ahead. But we have seen DeSantis sort of attacking Trump more steadily, a little bit more. Is his number one goal still to catch up to Trump, or does he now have to worry about other candidates like Nikki Haley, too?
He has to worry about Haley because she's getting a lot of attention from donors. But he is saying Iowa is his place to either stay in this race and really become a contender, or maybe have to rethink. Now, he says he's in for the long haul, but most of the observers of his campaign believe he has to do well in Iowa. Maybe not win, but come in a strong, competitive second place to really have a path ahead with donors, with voters in the Republican race. He's frustrated about former President Trump not showing up at these debates. The former Yale baseball player, the Florida governor, talking about the Trump losing a zip on his fastball politically. But Trump is making it so all of these rivals are effectively punching the air politically. They don't have anyone there to hit back at in terms of the ideological debates inside of the Republican Party, policy differences. So Trump just kind of coasts. The challenge for Trump is, even though he's avoided debates, he's avoided confrontations, if there's a surprise, and there's always a surprise in politics, but if there's a real curveball here and DeSantis does better than expected, Haley does better than expected, Christie does better than expected, that could upturn the whole race and make it more difficult for Trump to get the nomination. So for now, there's a belief there's a status quo, and if that status quo maintains, Trump will likely be the nominee. But in politics, anything can happen in just a few weeks.
Anything can happen, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you.